Hello, and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you're a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really, really appreciate it. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have the wonderful group of people who watch my podcast and interact and comment and talk to me. And I really, really appreciate it. And welcome to the new subscribers. And I hope you enjoy today's podcast. I have just gotten back from my parents. In fact, I was thinking I was going to podcast tomorrow, but I thought, oh, I'm ready. I went there for, as it turned out, I went there for Easter. I don't really necessarily celebrate Easter, but I did this year. We had a wonderful Easter dinner my sister-in-law cooked, and it was wonderful to be there with my brothers and my niece and my parents. So Dennis didn't go. He stayed home with Pearl, so it was just me. But I try to get there every few weeks to visit my parents. They're getting up there. I'm getting up there. And they're up there higher. So they're about 3 hours from me, so I try to go pretty regularly and get to spend some time with them, and so that's fun. My mother wears the sweater I made her for her birthday all the time, and so I need to make her another sweater. I've been thinking about making her a sweater for Mother's Day, but I don't think that'll happen, but I will be making her a sweater sometime in the near future for her next birthday. It'll be a nice warm sweater because she needs a warm sweater, and I think she'd enjoy it because she really likes the one I made her. And it wasn't my favorite sweater, to tell you the truth, so I want to make her a sweater I like better and I like to see her wearing. So, Diet Coke today. I almost made myself a Cosmo. I was almost sitting here drinking a Cosmo. And I'll tell you the truth, if I'd have had one more hand, I would have made myself a Cosmo and carried it upstairs. But I only want to make so many trips up the steps. I'll have my Cosmo while I edit this. So one thing I want to talk about, I totally forgot last time. My last podcast was the first time I had podcasts in over a month. And, you know, it was after my trip and so many things. And I forgot to mention our swap. We have a swap that people have signed up for, and I will be pairing people up before the next podcast. So I just wanted to mention it again in case you haven't heard about it or we're still thinking about it. It's time to sign up. And basically, you know, it's so much fun to get yarny packages. And so it's a kind of an informal swap, meaning that there aren't, rules and regulations about what needs to be in the swap package. My plan is to pair people up, and then you guys will get in contact with each other and exchange, mailing information and decide on, a swap plan that you're comfortable with. But I think it should be at least 100 grams of nice yarn. Some little something to, make the package special. It could be more than that. It could be, 2 skeins and some minis. It could be 1 skein and a few minis and something that you made. Anything, it should be a nice, fun, yarny package for somebody to open and for you to send. Because it's really fun to send yarny packages. It's not quite as much fun to send them as it is to get them, I guess, but maybe that is for some people. But it's so fun to get yarn mail. So if you're interested, there's a thread in the Ravelry group, the Flame and Fiber Podcast Ravelry group, which you can find on the Groups tab on Ravelry. And I highly encourage you, if you don't go over there, to go over there and introduce yourself and join, because it's a wonderful group of people. And sign up if you want to be part of the exchange. If we get an exact even number of people signing up, I'm probably going to pair myself with 2 of you because I want to be part of the exchange. So I hope that's okay. That's not cheating. But I want to be part of it. So if it comes out to be an even number of people, then I'm just going to pick, match myself to 2 people and exchange 2 things. So Anyway, if you have any interest in being part of the swap, I'm thinking that, well, since I'll match it up before the next podcast, it'll be like in the middle of April. And then, you know, the time frame should be like from when you're matched up to like the end of May. I think that's enough time, even if you need, you know, want to have something particular you want to make, it gives you time to make it, or if you have to send away for something special that you think this person will like, you'll have time to do that too. So I'm thinking like the end of May for the time frame when it should be mailed by. And then you can post your pictures of what you got and in the thread, and that'll be fun. We'll all enjoy seeing that. So anyway, you still have time to sign up. I will be doing that right before I podcast next time. So I'll do that. And the other thing you'll find in our group is we're having a year-long knit-along. Knit all the sweaters, year of the sweater 2018. So, and I'll put the hashtag down there because I think it's year of the sweater 2018 or year of the sweater KAL 2018 or both. Tell you the truth, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's both. And very soon I will be drawing for the first prize in that. It's a year-long knit-along where we're knitting sweaters. So put your finished sweaters in the finished objects thread. And because, you know, the first quarter is over. We're just started the second quarter. So pretty soon within the next, maybe at the end of April, maybe I'll do 3 sets of prizes for that. And so get your sweater knitting going, and you can check out the thread. There are 2 threads for that, a chatter thread and a finished objects thread in the group. So please join in. I'm all about the sweater, as you can tell from my 2018 podcasts. I did also want to say I'm going to the Allentown Fiber Festival, which is in Allentown, Pennsylvania. If you're anywhere around and are planning on go, please letting me know. I'm planning on meeting Susan and her friend, whose name I'm not remembering. I'm so sorry. And Helen and Mary Beth are the Crafty Toads are going to be vending there, so we'll see them. That'll be fun. And that's the weekend of like the 14th and 15th, I think. I'm going on Saturday, the 14th. It's just a day trip for me. It's only about an hour and a half from my house. And so if you're going to be going, look for me. And I will look for you if you tell me you're going to be there and show me what you look like. And anyway, that'll be fun. So I'm doing that. Not next weekend, the weekend after, 14th and 15th. So, but that'll be before I podcast next. So that's one thing that's on my horizon. So anyway, I am wearing my new sweater. This is the Arcade Sweater by Isabel Kramer. She is one of the teachers at SSK and one of my favorite designers. I was so excited when they announced that she was one of the teachers because I want to knit all her sweaters. I knit 2 of her sweaters last year when I didn't get any points, but I get door prize points for this since I'm going to SSK in July. I will back up so you can see what I look like, and I'll put pictures. Yeah, maybe I should just put pictures. It's easier to talk about it, so I'll do that. So I'll lean over so I can put pictures there of my niece, Ella, took pictures of me. I wore my sweater for Easter, so this is not pristine. But she took pictures of me, so I'll show them there. Now the sweater this is, like I said, the Arcade Sweater by Isabel Kramer, and I knitted in Malabrigo Royo, which was in right next to the sport weight yarn, or the DK weight yarn, and I thought it was a DK, but it's not, it's a sport. The pattern called for DK, but this turned out fine. I got a nice fabric, and it feels great. It was so much fun to knit. This is the first time I've knit with Malabrigo, surprisingly, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. The color is Reflecting Pool, and I used my Fat Squirrel fibers hugga bag when I knit it. And so this is how much I have left. I did buy one extra. One extra ball. And I forgot why I opened up this bag. So you're probably sitting there saying, well, because you were talking about blah, blah, blah. But, oh well. So the pattern for this calls for a size 6 needle. I did this on a size 9. I got gauge on a size 9. Now I made, this is supposed to have 4 inches of positive ease, so I made the 48 because my bust size is a 44. And it came out a little bit big. It feels like there's like a little too much fabric, you know, right here around my sleeves, which Dennis noticed when I pointed out to him, but he said, I didn't even notice that till you said it. The whole thing actually reads a little bit big to me. It may have stretched out when I was trying to block it. I think I'm going to wash it in the washing machine and see if that tightens it up a tad. It is superwash. It should wash in the washing machine. And, you know, carry it more carefully so it doesn't stretch out and try to block it, you know, lay it flat. I didn't actually put any pins in this. I just laid it flat and kind of stretched out the bottom panel, which is lace. Kind of a lace triangle. And, you know, so I tried to open that lace up a little bit, but I didn't pin it at all. And so the bottom is a little uneven where the lace meets the stockinette stitch. So I think next time I might put a few pins just to make sure that bottom stays straight. But, so it feels a little big, like maybe I stretched it out when I was making it. Now, when I was podcasting last time, I had started this already. I had actually gotten it to the point where I could try it on. And when I tried it on, you can see the pattern. Gee, why did I pick that color? You can see on the pattern that the neckline is quite wide. And I have wide bra straps, which I don't, you know, want to show. And I don't necessarily want to wear a, you know, tank top or something under this. So, my original idea was I was going to make it exactly like this. I would wear a tank top under it. I would make it a little cropped like it is in the pattern, and I would wear a kind of a long tank top, and it would show, and it would be kind of a sporty style for me, which is not my normal, but I don't make cropped for my age and my body. Not necessarily, I don't think that's necessarily a good look for me, but I thought with a long tank top and with the tank top strap showing, it would just, you know, it would work. But when I tried it on for size, after I had split for the armholes, for the sleeves, it seemed to me that the neck was not that wide. And then I started rethinking it. Well, if the neck isn't that wide, then I don't have to wear the tank top. But if I'm not wearing a tank top, I want a longer sweater. So I ended up buying one more skein of yarn, the last skein that was at my local yarn shop in the same lot, so that I could make the sweater a little bit longer. And that's what I did. But then, when I tried it on, I realized that the neckline was wide. I don't know. So, I ended up adding, there's a garter cuff and a little strip of garter at the bottom. And so, I ended up adding a strip of garter on the neck. And in fact, the strip of garter on the neck is slightly even bigger than the other two. Just to bring the neck in. And I'm really happy with how the neck looks. Isabel Kramer likes a kind of unfinished look. I think the The neck on this was like 2 rows that you knit when you first are knitting the neckline. You're knitting 2 rows of a, you know, like a knit and a purl row around. And she likes an unfinished look, or a more casual look on her edges. So I went back and I picked up the stitches on the neckline, and I made a full-on garter neckline, which I'm pretty happy with. So I ended up making more of a tunic style sweater than the pattern calls for, but I'm happy with it. It does feel a little big, like I said, so I think I'm going to see what I can do just to make sure I'm not stretching it. But it's extremely comfortable. I love the yarn. I'm happy with the color. I like the style. It's like a tunic. It's going to be a good casual sweater for me. I only really need casual sweaters. I don't dress up very much. I mean, I'll wear this out to dinner, you know. I don't go to super fancy dinner places. So anyway, I'm really happy with the sweater. Like I said, a tad bigger than I wanted, but otherwise, I'm really happy. Oh, and thank you again, Stephanie. Stephanie gave me this pattern for my birthday, so I went out and bought the yarn for my birthday present to myself. And that's very unusual for me. I don't typically find a pattern and say, oh, let me go buy the yarn for this pattern and then cast it on. And I know a lot of people do that, but I have a lot of yarn. I know you don't see it. It's still on the bed. How long has that been? 6 weeks now? It's still on the guest bed. I need to have company come so I can go start cleaning up. But soon I'm going to be putting that yarn away. And I just have lots and lots and lots of yarn. If you want to know how much yarn I have, you can go look at my stash on Ravelry. Because I don't have my yarn from my trip in Ravelry. I'm looking at it because it was all laying out here last time from my podcast. It's still sitting here. But I can't put it away because it's not in Ravelry yet. So that's the only thing that's not in Ravelry. Otherwise, I'm up to date. And I have a lot of yarn. A lot of yarn. I should warn you, if I match myself to you on our swap, I'll be swapping out of my stash. Just FYI. Because I have a lot of yarn. So anyway, so this is the Arcade Sweater by Isabel Kramer. And it's so comfortable. I'm so tickled with it. Really comfortable. So the other thing that I finished, and I just finished this yesterday because I was at my parents' and I got to a place on my other project where I couldn't go on anymore. So I finished my hat. This is 2x2 hat by Anne Gagnon. Free pattern on Ravelry. This is number 5. These are hats that will be given to charity when I go to SSK, and I get door prizes for the yardage on these hats. And this is made out of Knit Picks bulky worsted. And finally, on hat 5, I realized that I really need to do my cast on in such a way that when I turn it up, the color looks good on my other colors. So I do a 2 long tail cast on with this, and I hold one color from one of my previous hats as one yarn and then the new color, and then I don't have to worry about estimating how much yarn I need. And it gives it just a little bit of interest. So you can see the difference between this cast on, that one looks crummy, and this cast on, because I didn't pay attention, and so the inside of the cast on ends up on the outside of the hat. On this one I haven't woven in the ends, which is why it looked crummy on the other side. So I finally am paying attention to the details and realize what I have to do, and so now I've done it. Hat number 5. So that's, this is going to be a warm hat. This is 100% acrylic yarn that I'm using, because this is for people who, you know, don't have the ability to, you know, be gentle and hand wash. And, you know, if they get a chance to throw this in a washer and a dryer, you know, I want them to be able to do that. And it's actually, it feels good. It's very pleasant to knit. I had started on that Red Heart Super Saver yarn. I couldn't even knit it. And if I couldn't knit it, I didn't want to make, you know, make a hat out of it for somebody who, you know, I want it to feel nice. So this feels much nicer. The color for this is Persimmon. And I forget, I told you this color last time that I used on the edging. So that's hat number 5. Except I can't find number 1 yet. But I haven't looked. I keep saying that, but I haven't really looked. But 4 hats are right there, 2 through 5. So I know where they are. So I finished that. So I finished my sweater and I finished one of my hats. And of course, being the year of the sweater, when I cast off that sweater, I had to cast on another one. So the sweater I am knitting now, I do not have a color picture, I apologize, is the On the Beach by Isabel Kramer. This pattern has been in my library for a very long time for me. I've only been knitting for 5 years, and I put this in my library. Now this is a free pattern, but I put free patterns in my library. I put them in my library, I download them, so I have them. And so when I go to, you know, pick a new pattern, I select on the criteria in my library. And so I got, you know, so I get this one. Why shouldn't I? You know, I suppose I could do something that says all free patterns or whatever, but anyway, so it was in my library and downloaded. So I printed off the pattern that I had on my computer. Turned out I had downloaded that in 2015. So this has been on my list for a very long time. It's got a very wide open V here. So this is definitely, it's a summer sweater, and it's definitely going to have a tank top underneath of it. Now this pattern calls for a sport weight yarn, but I have had this Shibui linen in my stash. It's all beat up. In my stash for a very long time. And in fact, I knit my Hannah Fettig sweater, the Bryce, B-R-I-S-E sweater. Last year around this time, I finished it. I had started it even before I started the podcasting. And it had sat there for a long time, and I finished it at about this time last year. And it is Shibui linen in the poppy. So I have started this. I'm using the poppy and the ivory. Now this poppy linen yarn is one of my oldest yarns. When I first started knitting, we went to visit friends on Long Island and did a little yarn crawl with my friend. She was so lovely. She doesn't knit. She doesn't have any interest in yarn particularly, but she went with me and we bought some, went to 2 places on Long Island, and that was fun. But we also went into New York City, and while we were there, we went to Habu. Habu has a presence in New York City. It's like on the 6th floor of a high-rise building. It's not a storefront, but they do have a retail space, and I think they actually do their shipping from this location. It's in downtown, and I'm not sure exactly where. So we went in there and I bought some of, Habu has some really interesting stuff. So I have like stainless steel yarn, which I've never done anything with, and other things. But I also bought this poppy Shibui linen at that time. So I have been so drawn to this color and this yarn for a very long time, and I'm so excited to be using it again because it turned out I had 150 grams of it left in this poppy color. Now the other sweater was all the poppy, and I had to buy more skeins because I didn't have enough and the colors weren't right. It's got a little stripey. You can watch that old episode where I talk about that sweater, which is a lot, you know, which I'm going to use in the summertime, and I like it. But anyway, and it's funny because I would be shocked if I find this color. I don't think I have anything else in this color in my stash, but I just love it in the linen. So anyway, so I started, and I got to the point where I finished. I'm in the middle of a white stripe or an ivory stripe. I've split for the sleeves. I'm in the middle of an ivory stripe, and I ran out of yarn from that ball. So I decided to take advantage of my stopping place, to put it on waste yarn so I could try it on. And then my next thing I'm going to do is the sleeves. But when I was at my mother's, I didn't have the right length of needle to do a magic loop on the sleeves, so I stopped, and that's when I started working on my hat. So anyway, this is the beginning of my On the Beach. The next thing I'm going to do tonight, after I'm done with this, is to start working on the sleeves, because now, you know, it's easier to do the sleeves when you don't have a whole ton of sweaters slopping around. So this is, I tried it on. Feels a little bit big under the arms, like it's gonna be loose. So I'm thinking that I might change my needle size as I get past the bust to kind of bring it in a little bit at the waist before going back out at the hips. Now the pattern is a bit of an A-line. It just has a little bit of a increase as you go down. I'm not going to increase because I think it's already big enough. And maybe add a little shaping just by changing the needle size, because this pattern calls for a size 6 for a sport weight yarn. For me to get gauged in the round, I had to go to a 10.5, US 10.5. I don't actually know what that, it's a 6, excuse me. It's a 6 or an 8. With this, these needles, I cannot read. Sometimes a 6 looks like an 8. So you know, it's a 10.5. It's either a 6.5 or an 8.5. But I'm not sure, because I can't read that very well. And I got my reading glasses on, and I'm looking at it in the light, but it's just the way. I don't know. Sorry. But anyway, it's a US 10.5. Bright light. And when I'm knitting it in the round, now I knit the top back, you know, the neck and the top of the shoulders in a size 10, because my gauge going back and forth is a little looser than my knitting in the round. I'm not sure I needed to do that. I think the 10.5 is a tad looser than the 10, but I'm going to go back down to a 10 for the waist shaping, just to bring it in just a little bit, and then back to the 10.5. But it's very open. You can see through it very easily. But that's going to be such a yummy sweater when I wash it and dry it in the dryer, because it's linen and it is going to soften up like crazy. So I'm very excited, and I love, love, love this poppy. So I got the poppy either at Habu many years ago, 4 years ago, or I bought it on a D-stash trying to match it. So they don't match, but since it's stripes, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. The ivory I got, it was a Yarn Box Luxe box, and that was the first time I had gotten any yarn from Yarn Box, from a yarn company that I already had yarn. That was the first time. And so I got my box, and I think I bought 2 other people's boxes because I love this linen. So I have a lot of linen. So you will be seeing more things made out of the linen now that I'm on a roll. So I got some beautiful colors, you know, camel and slate, sidewalk and fjord and all kinds of colors. And I have more of the ivory too. So anyway, so this is my On the Beach. This is a free pattern. Oh, and I just printed off the one I had, and I was reading. I'm like, geez, I didn't get very far, and then I wasn't sure what to do. I was looking at it. I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. And, you know, and I'm reading the people talking about it on Ravelry, and oh, it's such an easy pattern. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm not having such an easy time. Why, you know? So I went out and looked, and of course, since 2015, she has revised it. She, what did she call it? Revisited. So it wasn't the original pattern was not in her typical wonderful pattern vernacular. So her patterns are really wonderful and easy to follow and lovely. And so since 2015, when I downloaded it the first time, she has revised it. So I reprinted it, and I am having zero trouble following that pattern. So that's fun. So tonight I will start working on those sleeves. So that's my next sweater. And, you know, I'm going to have lots and lots of door prize tickets. I'm so excited. But even better, I'm going to have lots and lots of Isabel Kramer sweaters. So the other thing I've been working on is socks. I don't know how that happened. Oh, I know how it happened. I got my hair done. I was going to the hairdresser, and I hadn't done anything to cast on the new hat. I hadn't gotten the yarn for the new hat yet because I had to order it from Knit Picks because I ran out of the worsted Brava that I had, and so I ordered a whole bunch of it for hats. And so I'll keep knitting hats. Well, I'll keep knitting hats at least till July. I'll have quite a few hats. And so I was on the Red Heart yarn, which I didn't want to work on. And I didn't want to take my sweater. I was getting my hair dyed, even though it's almost poppy color. I was like, I am not taking my sweater when I'm getting my hair dyed. You never know. Something could happen. So I went and I grabbed my socks that I had been working on. I went and found my little bobbins. Ooh, I forgot to show you my bag. This is the bag my sweater's in. It's the beautiful bag I got from Connie at Chili Knits. There's her pin. Thank you again, Connie. It's perfect for a sweater. Who knew? So anyway, so I have my little bobbins wrap bunny bag, and I had socks in it. So I have not had any Sock Mojo for quite a while. I think I stopped working on these maybe in October last year. I mean, I had socks on the go for a year and a half. And I just hit a point where I wasn't interested in socks anymore. And then when I started to pick up, start doing the hats, which are the easy, my pick up and don't think about it knitting, one of these days I'll probably find a different pattern just to break it up. But it's really easy to do that 2x2 rib without thinking about it. And I do like a project you don't have to think about. So maybe what I'll do is if I decide to keep making socks, maybe I'll do some patterned socks. Because they won't be my thought, my no thinking knitting. The hats will be. Anyway, I picked up my socks. So I grabbed my sock bag. This is about where I was at the time. So I grabbed my sock bag. I do my socks 2 at a time. Magic loop, top down. So here's the ribbing, 2x2 ribbing. This yarn is Do not tell me that I just wrote this down. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. I don't have the label. I just wrote it down and I had the label in my hand. I can't believe I didn't put the label back in my bag. Podcaster fail. I'm so sorry. But it's Flying Goat Farm is the name of the yarn company. And these are the Cory socks. So they're Cordale and nylon. And the color is called red flannel, which I think is easy to see. So I'm getting ready to go to the hairdresser, and I want to knit something, but I don't want to knit on my sweater. So I said, okay, I'll grab my socks. I open the bag up, and I'm looking at these socks. I'm like, what the heck pattern am I doing? And I have a pattern in the bag, but it's the Vanilla is the New Black pattern, because I like a Vanilla is the New Black heel, and I put it on everything. So the Vanilla is the New Black pattern has a plain stockinette sock. So it's not that's not what this is. And I'm looking at it and it's got, you know, lace detail, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck sock pattern I'm knitting. So I think, oh, I'll go look at my show notes. Well, you know, I haven't done show notes. I would, you know, for like 6 episodes. I couldn't find any show notes that had my socks in it. And I wasn't going to go and watch my podcast to try to figure out which podcast I talked about these socks. Not that I mind watching my podcast, but, you know, I don't watch them. So anyway, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I'm trying to read my knitting and trying to figure out what the heck. And it's got, you know, rows of yarn overs and thing. And I'm thinking, I don't think that looks like the Mercury socks. I made several Mercury socks, and I really like the Mercury sock pattern, which I think is a free pattern. But I didn't think this was it. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure out what the hell I was knitting? So what I did was, I always download my patterns when I buy them. So I went to my sock subdirectory of my patterns, and I sorted by date. And I'm like, okay, what pattern did I buy or did I download, you know, recently that this could be? And I realized these are socks with holes by Luli. I bought Luli's Simple Sock Pattern set of sock patterns because, number one, I really like Luli and I want to support her. And number two is I liked her patterns. So this is the Sock with Holes In by Lee Christensen, who is Luli. She's got a wonderful podcast. That was the first knitting podcast I ever watched, was Luli's podcast. And I really love her manner and what she knits beautifully. And anyway, so these are her socks with holes in. But I did my show notes last week. I will do show notes this week because apparently I need the show notes, even if you guys don't. And although the other thing, I wasn't doing project pages either. It was like I stopped documenting anything. I didn't. Last year, at the end of the year, I wasn't doing project pages. I wasn't doing podcast notes. I didn't do podcast notes up until this year either, up until last time. So anyway, I'm going to do podcast notes show notes because I need them to figure out what I'm doing. But I also am going to put a project page up for this. And I have a project page up for everything else that I've done this year. So I'm trying to get better with that. Just to help myself, because why should I be running around like, of course, I could have printed but it's a really pretty easy pattern. So I don't need, I ended up printing it out because, to have it in the bag. But so anyway, I've recently started the heel, and I love the Vanilla is the New Black heel. It fits me very nicely, and it is increases going down, and then you turn the heel, and it's a very easy one to do 2 at a time on one needle, which is one of the reasons I like it. But I also like the way it fits. you know, there's no stretching across the instep. I get lots, it gives me room for my instep. Anyway, I like it. So I've done this much. So when I started to work on the heel, which wasn't that long ago, I assumed that I had 64 stitches, and so I started doing 64, and that didn't work out. I'm like, what the heck? So it turns out I have 68 stitches on these socks. So I am knitting these on a size 0. This is the first time I've ever done that. I've never used a size 0 before. So I'm knitting these on a size 0 with a larger stitch count, because I want a dense fabric, but I don't want it, and I don't want it too stretched. But I'm thinking, at some point I was doing 60 stitches on a 1, and that felt like the fabric was opening up. It was like not quite enough stitches. So I have some on 64 that, you know, they feel like they get a little baggy. I don't know. So I'm not sure 68 on a 0 is correct. And I'm not sure if you know, an open pattern is the best way to decide that. So I'm thinking about decreasing when I get to the foot so that I don't have 68 stitches on the foot. I might go down to 64 stitches. But anyway, I'm knitting these on a size 0. I was shocked. I forgot what I was doing, but I checked it today right before I came up here just to be sure, because the numbers were it was so wacky to me that I had 68 stitches, because I've never done 68 stitches before. So it's on a size 0. So these are and this is how much I've done. So I'm back knitting socks, and I actually knitted on these at my mom's too, because I couldn't knit on my sweater and I had finished my hat, but I brought my socks. So, and I enjoy it, you know, and I enjoyed knitting on them. So who knows, I may keep knitting on them, or these may go back into hibernation for a while. I don't know. But I no longer feel an aversion to the idea of knitting socks, which I was feeling a little bit. It was like too much. I was knitting too many socks or something. I'm not sure. I hope that doesn't mean I'm going to have an aversion to sweaters when I'm done with this year of the sweater, because that would be terrible. Although, like my mother asked me the last time I was there, how many sweaters do you need, Barb? Maybe we'll find out. But at this point, I don't know. So, Socks with Holes In by Lee. So my up next that I'm going to be knitting is I'm going to be knitting I have to pick out the yarn for my square that I'm knitting for the Sister Survivor project. That's the project that Evelyn of the Thistle Hollow is sponsoring. I talked about it in the last podcast. This is a blanket that she's putting together and looking for people to knit squares. And she has quite a few people knitting squares, and I'm so glad to see that. And she needs 155 squares in 5-inch squares in fingering weight superwash yarn. And she's going to put them together in a blanket that she's going to give to Rachel Dunn Holland, who is the woman who was the first person to accuse Larry Nasser, the horrible doctor, Olympic doctor who abused these poor girls. And anyway, Evelyn has a couple of videos on her channel. She has a new podcast up. I haven't had a chance to watch it. And anyway, she's coordinating this Sister Survivor blanket project. And I will be knitting a square for it shortly. I think she needs them by the end of April. And I think I'm gonna look in my stitch dictionary and just kind of make up a pattern and, you know, see what I wanted to do that. And that's one of the reasons I haven't done it yet, because I haven't sat down and thought about it. But I'm going to be doing that. So that's upcoming knitting, which you should be done by the next podcast, I hope. Because I don't have tons of time. I just got to call. I hate that. I got to call on my cell phone. Nobody calls me on my cell phone when I'm home. Who knows me anyway. So the other upcoming thing that I will be knitting is I bought myself a sweater kit. And this is the first sweater kit I've ever bought. But I I saw this on Craftsy, and then I saw Leslie of the Knit Girls talking about it. She's knitting this, and I had seen it, and I thought, oh, I didn't realize that Laura Nelkin is one of the teachers at SSK. So a sweater by her also qualifies. And I'm all about the knitting the summer sweaters. So this is the Novelty Sweater by Laura Nelkin. And this is knit sideways. So this, several years ago I knit a sweater sideways and I was not happy with it. And I even knit it in cotton, which is what this is. I hope I like this sweater. Maybe I'll try that sweater again too. Anyway, it's she knits it sideways, so I think you start at the sleeve and you knit across, and then you know, end with the sleeve. I'm hoping I'll be able to make those sleeves a tad bit longer, because I do have, you know, the flappy old lady arms, which, you know, might use a little more coverage, but I need to do a size large, and so I got enough yarn to do a 2X. So I should be able to make it a little bit longer and a little bit longer sleeves if I want to do it. But anyway, this is what I'm making next. And the knit along that I get my tickets for will be ending April 30th. So I will admit I am looking a little forward to April 30th so I can pick a sweater regardless of who designed it. Although I have liked the opportunity to get knit a few more of Isabel Kramer's sweaters because I really do like them. But I like this too, and I think this will be a nice summer top. I got it in the jungle green color, and this is a DK Pima cotton. And this is Cloudborne, so this is Craftsy's own brand of yarn. And I don't know, I really like the color. It actually doesn't read very summery, but you know what? I like the color. So we'll see. I may need to get me some more of this color and some wools so that I can make myself another sweater. Actually, I might have this almost this color in the Cascade Eco Wool, so I may be making myself a sweater. I do have one sweater quantity of a kind of a jungly green. But this is called Jungle Green. I got 6 skeins of this. These must be 50 gram skeins. No, they are not. 100 grams. I got 600 grams. Hopefully I'll have some left over. Well, at least I'll be able to make the sweater as long as I want. And while I was ordering from Craftsy, you know how it is. Oh, I think I didn't quite have, I got this on sale, so it wasn't quite enough for free shipping. And I've been wanting these knit blockers, so I bought myself a set. So I'm very interested in seeing how these work, if I like them. So these are the blocking pins that I'm sure if you're on Instagram you've seen people block, you know, who post they've blocked their sweater or whatever and they blocked them using these pins. So I bought myself a set of blocking pins. So those are my goodies. This yarn kit. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever gotten a kit. I just opened the pattern a few minutes ago. I don't know if there's a Ravelry download for that. It would be nice if there were, because I'm going to put it in my Ravelry that I own the pattern, and if I don't find it in Ravelry, it's always weird to me. I have some of those, you know, especially if it's not in a book that I say, oh yeah, I have the book. So it would be nice to have a Ravelry code for that, but I'm not sure that I do. So anyway, I hope you had a lovely Passover and Easter if you celebrate those things. And We had snow. I woke up yesterday morning to 5 inches of snow at my parents'. They live in State College, Pennsylvania, which is in the exact center of Pennsylvania where Penn State is. 5 inches of snow on Easter Monday. It's gone by now, so. And I guess they got, Dennis said they got an inch here, so it's gone too. But crazy weather. But that made my sweater perfect for Easter dinner, so, you know, that works. Anyway, I think that's it for me. I don't think I have anything else in my notes. Please sign up for the swap if you want to. You have a little more time, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And join the Ravelry group, and thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you have lots and lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.